Hello, it's time for Genesis 1 4. Yes, chapter 1, verse 4. Okay, New International Version. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. And New Living Translation. God saw that the light was good, then he separated the light from darkness. English Standard Version. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness. Breen Study Bible. And God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from darkness. King James Bible. And God saw the light, that it was good, and he divided the light from darkness. New King James Version. And God saw the light, that it was good, and he divided the light from darkness. New American Standard Bible. God saw the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness. NASB 1995. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness. NASB 1977. And God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from darkness. Amplified. God saw that the light was good, pleasing, useful, and he affirmed and sustained it, and separated the light, distinguished it from darkness. Now this sustained, in other words, God is the sustainer of the universe. If God wanted to, the entire universe wouldn't exist anymore. Just like he wanted the universe to exist in the first place, he could change his mind and the universe wouldn't. Christian Standard Bible. God saw the light was good, that the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness. Holman's Christian Standard Bible. God saw the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness. American Standard Bible. And God saw the light was good, that it was good, and God divided the light from darkness. They all say the exact same thing. International Standard saw the light was beautiful. But they're saying the exact same thing. This argument, like the Bible, there's multiple translations. Why isn't there just one translation? And they say vastly different things. No, there's just different word usage. Anyway. Some interpretation of Wikipedia. The reference to goodness here reflects the fact that the Hebrew thought had no place for believing the material universe to be evil in itself. That the universe is not evil. The division between light and dark in this verse has been interpreted both literally and metaphorically. Inspired philosophy has done videos on this. Anyway, and some of the atheists don't understand what metaphors is, it seems. Oh, man. Like, one verse where it's like Joel is talking about these locusts attacking someone, like that could be like a metaphor for helicopters, but it says locusts. What metaphor is? The people back there didn't know what a helicopter is. God could use the word of helicopter. Anyway, so apparently Gerald Strozinger in his books, The Science of God, the Convalescence of Scientific and Biblical Wisdom, claims that this verse describes a literal phenomenon which physical cosmology, comparing it to inflation, not economic inflation, cosmology, like the growing of the universe. Commentator Paul Kissing writes that the first part of the verse indicates that the material universe, not evil, impersonal, is good, not evil, impersonal, not personal. impersonal and non-personal mean the same thing. Anyway, and that the second part reflects the orderly nature of the physical universe. Franz Delitzsch and others have seen the verse as ushering in the alteration of light and darkness, or the creation of time itself. Interesting. Augustine of Hippo, in his City of God, interprets the verse as describing a division between the holy angels and the unclean angels, pointing out that the existence of the sun, moon, and stars implied a division between physical light and dark, but between that light, which is the holy company of the angels, spiritually radiant with the illumination of the truth, and that opposing darkness, which is the norsome folliness of the spiritual condition of the angels who turned away from the light of righteousness. Only God himself could divide. Augustine follows this by suggesting God saw the light, that it was good, referring to the moral goodness of the angels. No, this is not saying God caused the demons to rebel. This is just God seeing the fallen angels rebelling, and saying, okay, leave, bye. That's at least what Augustine of Hippo says. The Zohar contains a number of interpretations of this verse, including the suggestion that God saw the light, that it was good, means that the universe became lightened up and provided throughout with the divine life which perseveres it from the common weal and happiness of created and eminent beings. Okay, sure. Whatever that. Rushdie gives an educate interpretation of this verse, indicating that the light is set apart for the righteous in the world to come. Or God just created light, whatever. The framework interpretation sees the division of light from darkness as part of a literary structure parallel to the later separation of sea from sky and land from sea. Okay, this is all. Now, what does Eliot have to say? And God saw this contemplation indicates first lapse of time, and next that the judgment pronounced was the verdict of the divine reason. Thanks. That it was good, as light was a necessary result of motion in the world and mass, so it was indispensable for all that was to follow, inasmuch as neither vegetable or animal life can exist without it. But the repeated approval by the deity of each part and portion of this material universe also condemns all Machian theories and attests that this world is a noble home for man and life a blessing in spite of solemn responsibilities. And God divided. The first 3 creative days are all days of order and distribution and have been called the 3 separations. But while on the first 2 days no new thing was created, but only the chaotic matter described in Genesis 1:2 arranged, and the day 3 was the introduction of vegetable life. The division on the first day does not imply that darkness has a separative and independent existence, but that there were now periods of light and darkness, and thus by the end of the first day our earth must have advanced far on its way towards its present state. It is, however, even more probable that the ultimate results of each created word are summed up in the account given of it. No sooner did motion begin than the separation of air and water from the denser particles must have begun too. The endement result was light, removed by a greater interval, was formed of an open space around the concreting earth ball. Still more remote was the formation of continents and oceans, but the separations must have commenced immediately that the wind of Elim began to bore upon and move the chaotic mass. How far these separations have advanced before they were recounted periods of light and darkness outside the scope of the divine nature, which is not geological but religious. Okay, that is a lot. Do with that as you will. Okay, that was Eliot's. Then we have Brenson's commentary. God saw the light. He beheld it with admiration as being exactly what he designed it to be, pleasant and useful, perfectly adapt to answer its intended end. God made separation between the light and darkness as to time, place, and use, that the one should succeed and exclude the other, and that by their virtues they should make the day and the night, though the darkness was now scattered by the light. It has its place because it has its use. For as the light of the morning befriends the business of the day, so the shadows of the evening befriend the reproach of the night. God has thus divided light and darkness because he would daily impress upon our minds that this is a world of mixture and change. In heaven there is perpetual light and no darkness. In hell are darkness and no light. But in this world they are charged, and we pass daily from one to the other, that we may expect like vertices the premise of God. Okay. Anyway, Matthew Henry's stuff. God said, "Let there be light." He willed it, and at once there was light. Oh, the power of the Word of God and the new creation. The first thing that is wrought in the soul is light. The blessed Spirit work upon the will afflictions by enlightened understanding those whose sin were in darkness. By grace became light in the Lord. Darkness would have been always upon fallen man if the Son of God had not come and given us understanding. The light which God willed, he approved of, God's divine light from the darkness. For what fellowship as light with darkness. In heaven there is perfect light, and no darkness at all. In hell are darkness and no gleam of light. The day and the night are the Lord's. Let us both use both to his honor by working for him every day and resting in him every night, meditating in his law both day and night. Okay. Then God saw the light and that it was good. God contemplates his work and derives a feeling of completeness from the perception of its existence. Here we have two other archetypical faculties displayed in God, which subsequently make their appearance in the nature of man: understanding and the judgment. The perception of things external to himself is an important fact in relation between the creator and the creature. It implies that the created thing is distinct from the creating being and external to himself, therefore contradicts pantheism in all its forms. The judgment is merely another branch of the comprehensive and cosmic valley by which we note physiology and ethical relations and the stations of things. It comes immediately into view on observing the objects now called into existence. God saw that the light was good, that is good in general, which fulfills the end of its beginning. The relation of good and evil has a place in an application in the physical world, but it ascends through all the grades of the intellectual and moral. That form of the judgment which takes colonization of moral distinctions is so much importance has to have received a distinct name, the cosmic sense and moral sense. Here, moral ridicule of God is here the moral rectitude of God is vindicated, inasmuch as his work of the power of his power is manifestly good. This refutes the doctrine of the two principles, the one good and the other evil, which the Persian sages have devised in order to account for the presence of moral and physical evil among the good and the present condition of our world. Divided between the light and in between the darkness, God then separates the light and darkness by assigning each its relative position in time and space. This no doubt refers to the vicissitudes of day and night, as we learn from the following verse. So yes, because evil is not the opposite of good. Evil is the corruption of good. I'm playing for the philosophy, has more videos on it. Anyway, James Burnett Brown, divided light from darkness refers to the alteration or succession of one to the other, produced by daily revolution of the earth around its axis. Then we have Matthew Pohl, who says, he observed with admiration that it was pleasant and admirable, agreeable to God's purpose and man's use, and made the distinction and separation between them in place, time, and use, that the one should succeed and shut out the other, so by Their rectitudes make the day and the night. You know, a lot of these are the exact same thing, but we're almost done, I think. And God saw it was good, very pleasant and delightful, uniform benefit. He foresaw it would be good and great service and interprets it, for yet there was no inhabitants of the earth to receive any advantage of it. Besides, it was dubiously good to answer some present purpose to prepare the work of the 2 following days before the great Lumley was formed, as to dispel the darkness of heaven and that which covered the deep. Yes. This phrase is repeated in each significant subsequent act of Cambridge Bible for schools and colleges, except on the second day. The purpose of the sentence is to express that the phenomenon of nature, of the natural world, in their respective practices, fulfill the will of the Creator, that what is in accordance with His will is good in His sight. By this simple and concrete expression, it is implied that God assigned their own places to light and darkness, respectively, and that before that moment of separation, the light had been confused and entangled in darkness. The 2 elements were now divided and pointed to different dwelling places. Yes. Okay, pulpit commentary. The astrology of this verse is suggestive and as teaching that from the first absolute and all significant he was an intelligent spectator to the operation of his own laws and forces, and he was profoundly interested in the results of which they achieved. An amount of degree of influence was with the vast machine of nature which would satisfy any rational seist today. God saw, i.e., examined and judged the newly finished product, investigating its nature and its properties, compiled its uses, admired its excellence, noted its correspondence with his own divine idea. You've done this before. If you create something, it's like you look at it like, yeah, that is what I wanted. Afterwards, the particular arrangement, effect, and condition introduced by the divine creative word that invokes divine condemnation. Here is the creator. It's the creature itself, perhaps as one object of nature, which forms the fittest representation of the Creator itself, who is light, and in whom is no darkness at all. It's just Anyway, let's keep on. The expression in Genesis 1:4, God saw the light, for it was good. God saw the light was good, according to frequently recurring adjective, is not an emphasis that the intelligent thoughts of God, for man seeing has this type in God, and God seeing is not a mere expression of his delight of the eyes or pleasure of his work, but of the deepest significance to every created thing, being the seal of perfection which God has impressed on it, and by which its continuance before God through God is determined. The creation of light, however, was no annihilation of darkness, no transformation of the dark material of the world to pure light, but a separation of light from the primeval matter, and separation which established a determined that interchanges light and darkness, which produces a distinction between night and day. Sounds like that previous guy was saying that Jesus is a created thing. He's not, by the way. I got some cross references, like Isaiah 45:7. I formed the light and created the darkness. I bring prosperity and create calamity. I, the Lord, do all these things. Yeah. He does. He is the one God. No one else. No one. Remember, Jesus has the keys to life and death. Yes. Okay, get past the commentaries. And seeing. Most literal translation is to see that a relative conjunction, the light, illumination, luminosity, it was good, pleasant, agreeable, good, God. It's plural. The supreme God, obviously, it says separated, to divide, to be divided or separate the light and thing from an interval of space between and darkness. This word in Hebrew has a lot. The darkness, darkness, misery, destruction, death, ignorance, sorrow, wickedness. Yeah, that word creates a lot of stuff. Okay, that is Genesis 1:4. Go watch other stuff, I guess.